Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
You already know what you're supposed to be doing. That's the part nobody talks about. You wake up in the morning, and before your eyes even adjust to the light, it's already there. That quiet knowing. That low hum in your chest that tells you exactly where your life is supposed to go. And then you reach for your phone. You check the same notifications you checked the night before. You step into the same routine that produced the same results it produced last year and the year before that. You don't avoid your calling because you don't know what it is. You avoid it because you do. Knowing what you're supposed to do and refusing to do it isn't confusion. It's a choice. And you make that choice again every single morning when you decide that today is not the day. One more year of that, and you won't recognize who's looking back at you in the mirror. Time does not sit still while you get ready. This is the part that should frighten you more than anything else. Right now, while you are warming up to the idea of starting, somebody else is already 6 months into the work. They are already making the mistakes you are still afraid to make. They are already learning the lessons that you keep saying you'll get to eventually. Eventually is not a place on any map. Eventually is where dreams go to become regrets. The price of one more year is not just 12 months of your life. It is the version of yourself that could have existed at the end of those 12 months. It is the skill you would have built, the clarity you would have found, the person you would have become through the friction of actually doing the thing. That version doesn't wait for you. It dissolves. Every year you wait, a better version of you ceases to exist. Most people are not lazy. That is the wrong diagnosis entirely. Lazy people do not lie awake at 2 a.m. thinking about what their life could look like. Lazy people are not haunted. You are haunted. You carry the weight of unlived potential everywhere you go, into every room, into every conversation, into every quiet moment when the noise finally dies down and there is nothing left to distract you from yourself. That weight has a name, and the name is unrealized work. It is the book you haven't written, the business you haven't started, the body you haven't built, the skill you haven't developed. You keep adding to that weight every time you choose comfort over movement. And here is the brutal truth that nobody in your life is going to say to your face. That weight gets heavier every year you carry it without doing anything about it. Not lighter, heavier. There is a version of your life that is available to you right now. Not tomorrow. Not after you figure everything out. Now. But that version has an expiration date, and it is not as far away as you think. Flow, which is that state where your work stops feeling like work and starts feeling like the only thing worth doing, does not visit people who are waiting for the right moment. It visits people who are already moving. It visits people who have already failed at the thing 3 times and are on their 4th attempt. It finds you in the middle of the chaos of building, not in the stillness of preparing to build. The right moment is a story you tell yourself to make the waiting feel responsible. It is not responsible, it is expensive. And every single day you spend in that story is a day you are not collecting the reward that movement gives you. The generation before yours was sold a lie, and you inherited it without knowing. The lie is that security is safety, that the job that pays you just enough to not pursue anything else is stability, that trading the hours of your one life for a predictable outcome someone else designed is the mature thing to do. And maybe once it was the only option. But you are alive at a time when the tools to build something of your own are free. The knowledge is free. The platforms are free. The access is free. What is not free is the time you are burning, right now deciding whether you want to use them. You are not waiting for opportunity. Opportunity has been sitting at your door for years knocking. You are waiting to feel ready, and readiness is not a feeling that arrives before you begin. It is a feeling that is built through beginning. People talk about regret like it is something that only happens to the old, like it is something you will deal with when you are 70 and looking back at your life from a place of stillness. But regret does not wait until you are old. It starts now. It is the quiet irritation you feel watching someone else do the thing you always said you would do. It is the hollow feeling when someone asks what you are working on and you have nothing to say. It is the Sunday evening dread that comes not because Monday is coming, but because another week passed and nothing moved. That is regret arriving early. That is your life sending you a message right now, while there is still time to change the answer. The price of one more year is that the regret gets louder. It does not stay quiet. It compounds the same way effort compounds, except in the wrong direction. You have been studying the jump for so long that you have become an expert on the jump and a complete stranger to the landing. You know every book on the subject. You can explain the theory in precise detail. You have watched everyone else do it and critique their form, and still you are standing at the edge. The studying was never the problem. The problem is that you confused acquiring knowledge with making progress. They are not the same thing. A man who reads every book ever written about swimming will drown the moment he hits water. You learn the skill by doing the thing in the real world where failure is possible and embarrassment is possible and real consequences exist. That is where the knowledge becomes wisdom. That is where you transform from someone who knows about the work into someone who knows how to do the work. One more year of studying without building is one more year of delay disguised as preparation. You will not feel confident before you start. This needs to be said plainly and without decoration. Confidence is not the fuel, it is the result. It is what gets produced when you take uncertain action and survive it. It is what grows when you attempt something you have never done before and discover that you can handle more than you thought. The people you look at who seem to move through life with certainty did not start that way. They started exactly where you are, which is uncertain, underprepared, and slightly terrified. The difference is they moved anyway. They did not wait until fear left the room, because fear does not leave the room when you are doing something that matters. You take action while fear is still in the room, and over time fear stops being the loudest voice, but only over time, only through the accumulation of action. One more year of waiting does not quiet the fear, it funds it. The most dangerous lie about hard work is that starting is the easy part. Every person who has ever built anything real, anything that mattered, knows the truth about the first moment. The first moment is a wall. It is a physical resistance that has nothing to do with ability and everything to do with the gap between who you are and who the work demands you become. Your brain reads the blank page, the empty gym, the unopened laptop, the undialed number, and it fires every alarm it has. It tells you the timing is wrong. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you to come back when conditions are better. And here is the part that will cost you everything if you do not understand it. That resistance is not a warning. It is a test. It is the gate that separates the people who build things from the people who only think about building things. The gate does not open by thinking harder about opening it. It opens the only way it ever opens, which is by moving through it. The paradox sits right at the center of everything you have ever procrastinated on. You avoid the task because it feels heavy. It feels enormous. It feels like it requires more energy than you currently have available. And so you wait until you have more energy. Except the waiting is what drains the energy. You are not conserving yourself by delaying. You are hemorrhaging the exact resource you think you are protecting. The mind in a state of avoidance is working harder than the mind in a state of action, holding a task at a distance, rotating it in your thoughts, building it into something larger and more threatening than it actually is. That process burns more fuel than simply doing the thing would have burned. And then the moment you finally sit down and begin, something shifts. The resistance that felt like a wall turns out to have been made of smoke. You push through it and it disappears, and suddenly the only problem is stopping. This is not a motivational concept. This is how your brain is actually built. There is a neurological principle called the Zeigarnik effect, which is the mind's tendency to fixate on unfinished tasks far more aggressively than completed ones. Your brain treats an unstarted or incomplete task like an open loop, a piece of code running in the background consuming processing power without producing output. The moment you begin, the moment you take even one real step into the work, the brain shifts from loop mode into execution mode. The background noise quiets. The anxiety that lived in the waiting starts to dissolve because anxiety is almost entirely about anticipation. It is almost never about the thing itself. Ask anyone who has ever dreaded a difficult conversation, a hard workout, a complex project. The dread is always worse than the doing. The anticipation is always more painful than the reality. Starting is the cure and the only cure, and it works every single time you are willing to apply it. There is a reason elite performers in every field talk about systems and routines with almost religious devotion. It is not because they are obsessive. It is because they have learned something that most people never figure out, which is that you cannot rely on motivation to get you to the desk. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are not dependable. They change with your sleep quality, your last meal, the last conversation you had, the weather outside your window. If you are waiting to feel motivated before you begin, you are outsourcing your output to factors you have zero control over. The system is the answer. The routine is the answer. You sit down at the same time, in the same place, with the same ritual, and you begin before motivation has any say in the matter. And here is what happens when you build that system correctly. The act of beginning triggers momentum. And momentum is a force that motivation cannot match because momentum does not require feeling. It requires only continuation. There is a specific moment inside every creative and productive session that nobody warns you about, and missing this moment is why most people quit too early. It comes about 15 to 20 minutes into real focused work. Before that moment, the work feels awkward and slow. Your thoughts feel disconnected from your hands. Your output feels thin. You feel like you are not the person who should be doing this task, like you stumbled into the wrong room. Most people interpret that feeling as a sign that they are not cut out for the work. They take it as evidence. They use it to justify closing the laptop or leaving the gym or putting down the pen. But that window of awkwardness is not evidence of anything except that you are still in the transition phase between distracted mind and focused mind. Push through that window and everything changes. The gears catch, the flow begins, and the only challenge is no longer starting. It is stopping when the world requires you to stop. The same brain that makes starting difficult makes stopping difficult for completely different reasons. And understanding both sides of this is what separates people who produce consistent great work from people who occasionally produce great work between long stretches of nothing. When you are deep in the work, when the flow has taken hold, and your mind is moving at a pace that matches the challenge in front of you, Stopping feels like a violence against the process. You are in the middle of something alive. The thoughts are connecting in ways they don't connect in ordinary consciousness. Ideas that didn't exist an hour ago are now organizing themselves with a clarity that feels borrowed from somewhere beyond you. Pulling yourself out of that state is genuinely difficult because the brain has committed its full architecture to the task. This is not a problem. This is the goal. The goal was always to get here. The tragedy is that most people never find out this place exists because they quit before the first wall gave way. You have to stop romanticizing the idea of the work and start having a relationship with the actual work. Most people do not change because they have not yet seen the full picture of where they are going. They see today. They see this week. They feel the mild discomfort of a life that is not quite right, and they manage it. They manage it with the phone, with the drink, with the television, with the weekend, with the small pleasures that are just strong enough to cover the low hum of a wasted potential. And the management works. That is the problem. It works just well enough to make the situation tolerable, and tolerable is the enemy of transformation. Nobody changes a tolerable situation. You change an unbearable one. So the comfortable dissatisfaction you feel right now is not protecting you. It is keeping you exactly where you are. It is the anesthetic that makes the slow decline feel like stillness. And while you are comfortable enough not to move, the trajectory continues. The destination does not care that you are comfortable. It keeps arriving whether you looked at it or not. Project your current life forward by 10 years without changing a single variable. Do not soften it. Do not tell yourself things will naturally improve with time, because time does not improve things on its own. Time only amplifies the direction you are already moving. If you are moving toward something, time gives you more of it. If you are staying still, time gives you the compounded consequence of stillness. So take the job you are in right now and ask yourself where this job leads if nothing changes. Take the body you are living in right now and ask where this body goes if the same choices continue being made. Take the relationships, the habits, the patterns, the way you spend your Sundays, the way you speak to yourself at night when everything is quiet, and project them all forward honestly. Not cruelly, but honestly. What you see at the end of that projection is not a punishment. It is information. It is the map of the destination you are currently walking toward, and you needed to see it. The reason people resist this kind of thinking is that it is uncomfortable, and the brain is wired to move away from discomfort, not toward it. But there is a difference between the discomfort that destroys you and the discomfort that saves you. Looking clearly at the trajectory of your own life before it becomes your reality is the kind of discomfort that saves you. It is the discomfort of the doctor's appointment that catches the thing early. It is the discomfort of the honest conversation that saves the relationship before it collapses. It is the discomfort of sitting with the truth about where you are headed before you arrive. The people who do this, who are willing to sit in that discomfort long enough to really feel the weight of an unlived life, those are the people who change. Not because they are more disciplined or more talented, but because they gave themselves no comfortable place to hide. They used the picture of the future as fuel, and fuel is all you need to move. Pain is not the enemy. This is what the culture around you has been trying to protect you from understanding, because an industry of comfort has been built on you never figuring it out. Pain is data. Pain is a signal. Pain is the body and the mind and the soul all pointing in the same direction and saying something here needs to be different. The problem is not that you feel pain. The problem is what you do with it. Most people treat pain as something to be managed and suppressed and medicated and scrolled away. They treat it as a malfunction. But pain in the context of a wasted life is not a malfunction. It is a function. It is the system working. It is the alarm doing exactly what it was designed to do. The alarm is not the problem. The fire is the problem. And you can keep hitting snooze on the alarm and going back to sleep. Or you can get up and address the fire. Those are your options, and they have always been your options. There is a specific kind of person who ends up at 50 with a life full of regret and an explanation for every piece of it. They have a story for why the business never happened, a perfectly reasonable account of why the marriage fell apart or never formed, a logical explanation for the body, the finances, the missed opportunities, the unlived dreams. Every reason they give is technically true. The circumstances were real. The obstacles were real. The timing was genuinely bad at various points. But here is what the explanation leaves out. Other people had the same circumstances and moved anyway. Other people had the same obstacles and found a way through them. Other people had bad timing and decided that waiting for good timing was more expensive than moving through bad timing. The story you tell about why you didn't change is not a defense. It is a description of the moment the pain wasn't yet loud enough to override the comfort of staying. That moment will come again. The question is what you will do when it does. The tipping point is not a dramatic event in most cases. People expect transformation to come with a lightning bolt. They expect a single devastating moment that makes the choice obvious and the path clear and the motivation automatic. Sometimes that happens, but more often the tipping point is quiet. It is a Tuesday morning when you catch your own reflection and do not recognize the expression on your face. It is a conversation with an old friend where you realize they have moved forward and you are still describing the same plans you described 3 years ago. It is a night where the usual distractions stop working and the silence gets loud, and there is nothing left between you and the truth of where you are. That quiet tipping point is just as powerful as the dramatic one, but only if you let it land. Only if you do not immediately reach for something to dull it. The feeling you are trying to avoid in that moment is the most valuable thing available to you. It is the beginning of the energy that changes everything. Society is a script, and most people are reading from it without knowing they picked it up. You go to school because that is what you do after you are born into the particular country and class and era that you were born into. You get the job that the degree points to because that is the next line in the script. You buy the house and start the family on the timeline the script suggests, and you measure your progress against the benchmarks the script provides. And the script is not evil. For a certain kind of life, it produces a certain kind of stability. But stability and potential are not the same thing, and they are often in direct opposition. The script was written for the average outcome across millions of people. It was not written for you specifically. It does not account for what you are capable of when you are fully committed to something you actually chose. Following it without question is not the safe option. It is the option that guarantees you will never find out what was possible if you had deviated from it. The approval of other people feels like safety, but it functions like a cage. Every time you make a decision based primarily on what the people around you will think, you are outsourcing your life to a committee that did not apply for the job and does not have your interests as their primary concern. The committee has their own interests. They have their own comfort levels. They have their own ideas about what a person like you should be doing with a life like yours. And when you build your choices around their approval, you are not building your life. You are building a performance of a life designed to produce a specific audience response. The performance might be convincing. People might applaud. But you will know in every quiet moment that the thing they are applauding is not the real thing. The real thing never got made because it required you to risk their disapproval. And risking disapproval is exactly what taking a chance on yourself means. It means being willing to let the world be wrong about you,